Hey Matt, alright, so here's your past life spread. So, what we're going to do is look at where you are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and feelings involved, another important day, the death, and lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout. So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that I'm getting, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of what we go over here in your current life, and I'll try to help however I can. Alright? Okie doke. So, we're going to start here, and this is the Americas, and even before I laid this out, I felt like we were going to probably be popping up in South America, and I want to say that we're going to a place where you have like many different elements of nature to choose from. So a lot of times when I come to South America, it's usually like in a dense jungle. It's on like in the trees. Like there's always something dense and green. And here I feel like the difference that I haven't had is where there's an open plain. Like I feel like there's an open, for lack of just like a plain or a plateau, and where there's not really trees, even though you have, like I said, different elements. It feels like if you want a forest, you need a forest, there's a forest. You want mountains, you need a mountain, there's a mountain. Like it has all these wonderful elements of nature, which are very important, it feels like, for whatever particular community this is and what they practice. Because I feel like we're going to be looking at a life where almost the whole community, basically, there's some kind of I guess it's common, like a worship or a practice of deities and that kind of thing. But I feel like mainly we're looking at people who worship nature-based in South America. And it feels like we're going, I want to say it's like past halfway down. So if we look at the continent, if you look at it cut in half and then look down, it's going to be in that section, and so I don't know exactly what's in that section, but I'm not huge on geography there, but like something like Peru comes to mind because they only give me information using like the filters that I have. So if Peru makes the cut there, it feels like it's like a something with a P, like, or at least how we know it now, maybe Patagonia or something like that. And there's an area where it's like a lot of like a plateau, mountainside, not where you could see for a long time. So how you could be making connections, for example, could be one, have you ever been pulled towards South America? Have you ever been pulled towards South America in the respect of particularly like enjoying the idea of going somewhere like where there's ruins of older people, of the people like Mayans or Aztecs, like the ruins, do they call to you ever? If you look at a photo of the land in South America, does it trigger you in some way? Or do you have decor around your house like South American art in some way or form, that kind of thing? Because we're drawn to a lot of things in that way. Like we'll decorate our house in a certain style that reminds us of a style we had lived before that we were comfortable with. So that kind of thing, just random things, but also, larger connections. Have you been pulled to do work in South America? Have you ever felt like, oh, if I were to do the Peace Corps, I'd want to go to South America, like that kind of thing. What else? Oh, natural. The natural aspect of this life is going to be coming up, and make sure you're making connections with that. Do you feel extremely pulled to nature, like on a deep level of like, it feels like these people like almost could speak with nature. Like, so do you find that you have a very green thumb, or you find that you just enjoy being outside? You feel like you're almost like a second home, like very comfortable outdoors, or very in tune, there you go, that's the word, in tune with nature. Like even just that you love to be outside because you love to feel the wind or the sun, or like that. Like, do you have a deep appreciation for nature? If you find that you do, I feel like it would stem from here. Let me think of a few, what else? Keep making connections where you can based off what I'm going over. If there's more, I'll bring it up. This does feel like we're going back a long time ago, before anything was disturbed, so to speak. A lot of times I get lives in South America where, okay, the white men are coming over and, like that kind of thing is happening. But right here, it feels like we're going back to like kind of a pure time of like of their practice or of these people, like where they're not really worried about foreigners or anything like that. Like the most they have to worry about is their own survival, just based on where they live and how to survive, you know, that kind of thing. Let's go here. So this card is the protector and guardian card, and it's really interesting because a lot of times we get this card when it comes to, like, you know, a security guard or, you know, someone who's literally protecting physically certain things. But I feel like very much we're diving into an aspect of yourself here where this person was the protector and guardian of knowledge, and what we today would consider probably like lost knowledge or secrets. Or because when I was laying this out, even when I was shuffling, it was like the word shaman came in, and I feel like we are looking right now at a shaman disciple. Like where they're placing me in this life is younger. So this is a young man we're looking at this time, where he's young enough that he's just a disciple or an apprentice of the main shaman or a main shaman, because I feel like there might be more than one. It's not, I don't feel like this community has like that one medicine man that, you know, everyone knows. It feels like this is a larger native community that has many available in tune people who are, you know, in tune with the natural world, the healing world, the energy world, like that kind of thing. I feel like this is like a very normal thing, and if one feels pulled in that direction or has the gift or whatever it is, then they'll go ahead and apprentice. And I feel like that's what we're looking at here, is a disciple or apprentice of the like shamanic arts, which I would definitely say, if you haven't already considered looking into it, I feel like it's really like at least time to go and look at it. Like just look up shamanic practices or shamanic whatever where you are or around the world, and see how you feel about it and if you're drawn to it in any way. Because if you're looking for the next step to go in any direction as far as maybe spiritual growth or development in that way, I would definitely say look into shamanism. It's really tied in with nature. There's, you know, animals involved. If you haven't already looked into it, look into it, see if you feel connected to anything that it has to do with. I feel like it's, if you're someone that has like a seeker's soul, if that makes sense, someone who's always like curious and looking at the mysteries and seeking out, you know, that kind of thing, it would speak from this life. I feel like there's a lot of mysteries in this life, and you're very in tune with a lot of things that today it's hard to be in tune with, because first we have to get over the skepticism and get through, like, you know, society saying it's not real, and then we have to allow ourselves to believe it, and then we get to a certain place. Whereas here it feels like ground zero is belief. Like ground zero, like you are brought up believing in then, you know, nature spirits, animal spirits, energy, like the thing beyond the veil, like that kind of thing, I feel is very natural here. So in your current life, if you find that you've been very naturally pulled into those kinds of things, being in tune with nature or your intuition, even like if you're a big animal person or like a deep appreciation again for nature, green thumb, that kind of thing, I feel like we're looking at it here, because I feel like also it's not just like animals, there's a lot of like herbology involved here. It feels like just someone who knows the way of all the plants. He appreciates the plants for, you know, medicinal, but also there's something about knowing, you know, which ones are poisonous. Like there's just this overall appreciation for everything that nature provides and can do. So the protector and guardian card too, if you find that you are someone that does want to find, if lost knowledge is appealing to you in the sense of like Indiana Jones, you know, like that kind of thing, if that's always like pulled at you or that's intriguing to you, it's because this aspect of yourself already had it. So it could be in your current life that you are possibly always looking for it. If you feel like you're always looking for something, seeking something, yearning for knowledge or understanding or whatever it is of certain things that might be on the more mysterious edge, or maybe you're into conspiracy theory, maybe you're into, you know, that kind of thing, it would make sense here because this person had the knowledge and it was their job to keep it and to utilize it to his people's advantage, like for good, so to speak. So basically that would be coming through as a message for you. If this speaks to you, it would be coming through as a message to you to let you know that you already have all the knowledge. And I know that's kind of like it's like in a sense, it could be a letdown, because you're like, oh, well, part of the fun is like in seeking it and journeying to get it, but you already have all the knowledge that you could need or want for this kind of work, to be in tune with nature, to be connected in that way, how to connect. You have it all. It's all about, this lifetime is not about learning, it's about remembering. So keep that in mind, because you have it already. So that just takes you kind of being proactive in pursuing the things that call to you the most. So if you might be someone that is really interested in a lot of things calling at you, well, just take that first step towards the first thing that really excites you, and everything else will fall into place, and it'll start hitting you intuitively, certain things. As far as if you're looking to getting going in a certain modality or a certain practice or something, just follow what excites you the most first, and then go from there. And it's definitely what you should do. This will put you on the path, it'll put you in the flow, and you'll see a lot of doors opening when you start to do that kind of thing, listening to your intuition and, your joy and all that stuff, and what excites you the most, and going down. Don't stand in limbo too long, basically. If you feel that you're like, oh, should I go here, should I do this, don't be in that middle place too long, just make a decision. Let's go to the first important day. Here we're looking at a birth card, and with it comes the child card, which is always makes a lot of sense, I guess, and then content. So here I feel like what we are looking at is, okay, so at first I felt like it was your child being born, and then I felt like you were actually helping a child being born, and I feel like it's actually both. I feel like we're looking at you involved in the birth of your child, which, in my head right away, because I have to work on keeping bias out while I'm doing these readings, because in my head it's like, wait, always the women are always involved in the childbirth, not the men, but I don't know. This is what they're showing me. So I don't know if there were weird circumstances where they would let a man come in, or if the shamans of the community are thought of as medicine men in the way where they are welcome to help, or if it's just simply tradition to let men or the partner to be there during it. I don't know. So that would be something good to Google, to those older South American tribes, and see if there is one where it's normal for a man to be part of the birth. But it feels like he's actually part of the birth, and it does feel natural, it's almost like he's actually feeling, this is kind of weird. So we're going to go to a past life, which I've never done before, and it feels like this is his first birth that he is performing, and while it's happening, even if it's accidental or whether he's supposed to be there, while it's happening, he, with all of his shamanic knowledge, the visual journeying, all that goes on, he is also aware that he had a past life or another life as someone who was kind of like a midwife, or someone who, like, basically a healer here, but a healer before. So it's almost like a lot of times in our lives, we do have these little moments that a lot of us kind of throw away because it's weird, but like you'll be doing something in your daily life and it'll trigger a memory, and you'll have a memory or a glimpse or a vision of something where you're a part of it, but it's not you in this life. It feels like another life, another scene, another time. And a lot of us just brush it away because we're like, oh, that's my imagination. But those are actually little glimpses we do get into our other lives. So it's usually something big, like helping with a birth of your child for the first birth. The birth is your child. It's very emotional, and it's bringing forth a lot of stuff, especially someone who's sensitive. So it's like he's remembering another life where he was a healer as well, but a woman healer, and that this birthing brought that forward, which made the birthing process to him, even though it was technically his first time in this life, made it feel very natural. So that's a very interesting thing. I've never had that before, so that's interesting. And what that's bringing forward too is a reminder to you that you're not going to become an expert at something unless you practice, or it's almost like pay attention to what you're doing while you're doing it, and you'll feel that it will become natural if it's part of like who you're, like a soul memory. So pay attention to the soul memories. And also it's not about putting the practice in to get good at something. It's about taking the first steps of doing something new to you that feels new. And you'll find that once you start getting into it, it will become very natural and that's how you'll become an expert at it very quickly, is because, again, it's not about learning, it's about remembering. So a lot of things that you are pulled to do will be in order to reawaken certain knowledge in you. That's where we're going with that one. So that's interesting. I never had that one before. Another thing could be healer aspect. Do you feel that you have healer aspects to you? Do you feel like a healer? Do you feel like you can work with energy? Do you feel like there's a part of you that is that you're very in touch with your feminine energy, and that doesn't make you feminine. What it is just puts you in touch with the energy, meaning that you may be a very balanced person and find that you can sympathize with the plight of women, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, you are able to understand at a deeper level and connect maybe with women at a deeper level or an easy level. Maybe it's very easy for you, or has been very easy for you, to make friends with women versus maybe some buddies you have who would rather bro it up, that kind of thing. Not to say, again, this is not demasculating you or anything like that. This is just a balance of energy, which is really nice, because it means that you're open and more sensitive and able to be in tune with so much more when your energy is balanced that way. And it's also a cool little glimpse into another life of yours where you are a woman. And that's really neat too, because a lot of us don't think we can, we're not aware that we can be men or women, you know what I mean? And it's all about experience and learning and gathering the learning experiences and the lessons. And so here you are, and you're able to see if you connect with that whole balanced energy notion in your life, or it's something you're even striving for or feeling yourself becoming balanced in, at least you know where it's coming from. You've had a healer's life in both genders at least one time. I can tell you it's going to be more than one life here. I mean, we're looking at least two. There's plenty more. Once a healer, always a healer kind of thing. It's like once you wake that stuff up, it doesn't go away. So again, in your current life, if you are looking into being a healer of some sort, again, follow the first step towards what excites you the most, and it will lead you exactly where you need to go. This person did have a handle. It does feel like herbs, medicines kind of thing. So if you find that you've ever been pulled towards the medicinal industry, or herbs, or it could be as simple as liking to cook. Do you like to cook and use your own herbs? Are you someone that has your own farm? Do you have your own herb farm, like little herb growth or whatever it is? That could be what's it called? A connection here as well. Another connection, there is something about this. So we're looking at a shamanic thing. We're looking at someone who's in tune with the nature and the medicine. And there's also what came up real quickly was hallucinogenics as well. So have you ever been intrigued by those as well? Like whether it's medicinal aspects or just like what you hear they do for you, because they're coming out with more and more like medicinal aspects of hallucinogenics. So I feel like that is a common thing that you utilize here as well. So just, little things like that. Also, the content card it has to do with, again, the natural feeling of remembering instead of purely learning. Just remember that you're in a state of remembering. Ooh, do you hear that plane? That is, it's a helicopter. Okay. Anyway, so let's go to the next important day. Here, this is the Wowzer card. It's one of my favorites. It just means something really significant is happening kind of on a soul growth level. And then here is the Karmic card. And here is Betrayed. And this is a huge day because it feels like it's a huge test for you. And I feel like we're looking at later in life. So at first they put us with you as like, it almost felt like a child or like on the cusp of being a teen or something like that. Here we're looking at a very, very young you, with a partner and doing what you do best, so to speak. And it feels like there's a lifelong apprenticeship with this kind of thing, always learning kind of thing. But it feels like you're past the initial thing where you have to be with your like master shaman, whatever. It feels like you're past that. Like you don't have to check in with him all the time at this point. And then here it feels like you've achieved the level of where people are coming to you and you're training them now. So we're actually seeing a beautiful kind of life cycle, like that whole circle thing. And what it feels like is this is a day that's a huge test for you, because it's almost like something you've always known and always done and that's always worked, it didn't work this time. And I feel like because of it, there was either a big tragedy or a death. It feels like it has to do with nature. I feel like we're looking at like a huge natural disaster that you and the other shamans, I feel, came together to kind of ward off in the way that you know how to ward off like the weather spirits or whatever it is. I don't know how that's just how it's coming through. And it feels like despite your best efforts, there was a lot of damage done. Almost like a flood, a hard, quick flood of some kind. And it feels like it brought a lot of damage and possibly a few deaths to your community. And I feel like the betrayal card is coming through because this is a lesson you've never had to learn before, because up until now it's like you've been able to see the effects of the practice that you've been putting in your whole life. And then here comes this time when it didn't work. So it's a test of faith. It's a test in your belief system. It's a test of your perspective. And, are you able to rise above it and see that this flood had to happen? Those people had to die in order for there to be certain kind of like life contracts met, and are you able to rise above it and help others rise above it and see past the tragedy or see it for what it is versus hanging on to it and holding a grudge and being allowing grief to take over and changing your belief system. Oh, this doesn't work. It didn't work. That kind of thing. Self-doubt. That kind of thing right here. So we're looking at a lot of feelings coming through that you haven't felt before, which is really interesting because you're a lot older than you were, and it's almost like some of these lessons are coming to you a little bit late, kind of thing. So in your current life, it could be that you decided to come back into this life where you're like, okay, I'm going to face my hardships early on so I can kind of get them over with and learn from them to have a smoother sailing later on. If that speaks to you, that could be coming through as well. Too, you could be someone who is very weird about securing your possessions and property, as far as making sure everything is like watched over, protected, covered at night, or like little things like that. Like maybe you like security around your house, like maybe you're someone that has security or something like that, because it feels like the damage to the community here was traumatic, but also the deaths too. It was kind of a trauma to your soul a little bit, and the confusion, you had to work through it. But again, it's like teaching an old dog new tricks is possible, but it's going to be harder. So that's what it feels like here. Is just this was your hardship, was later in life having to cope with feelings that you feel like, oh, I should have already learned to deal with this kind of stuff, if that makes sense. So if that speaks to you in any way, keep making those connections. But it's also a message to not let things ruffle your feathers. Like, don't let little things, pick and choose your battles is what it is, what feels like is coming through. Because again, in the moment, it's really important that the best thing you can do when you're feeling torn, when feelings come up, is acknowledge those feelings and then try to put them in front of you like clouds passing by, and you can see them going away. And if you can actually if you can put that, take those the negative lower vibrational emotions of anger, grief, resentment, those things in the moment, and distance them from you, just put them out here and see them passing by, kind of thing. It's that's just a technique I've learned, and that works for a lot of people, in order to judge, to see if those are emotions that are worth holding on to. If you can separate yourself and see them going away, let them go away. It's so much better for you. It's kind of like forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. Despite how counterintuitive that might feel at first, it's true. Because what you're doing with forgiving is you're releasing a big burden off of yourself. You're like unscrewing these screws and letting whatever just fly off. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much better to let go of a burden than hold on to it, because it does nothing but hurt yourself. So I feel like that's what we are also looking at here, is someone who had to manage his emotions. So emotional management basically is the overall theme here. Which also means that you could have come into this life very level-headed, like very leveled and balanced. Like we were talking about the masculine and feminine energies being balanced. Your emotional balance could be very, very good in this life because of having to take care of it here, because I feel like you did take care of it, because it's like, you're very in tune with that, versus people today, it's really hard to be so in tune with our emotions and so in tune with nature, and so, and being even aware that those two things are in tune, ourselves and nature and our emotions, all that. So it could be, again, that'd be a lovely gift, since you figured it out here at the end, that you came back into this life able to be very balanced. You might be someone that people actually come to listen to their problems, or to feel good again about something bad happening, because you might be someone putting out that energy that you are very balanced, if that makes sense. So connect with that in whatever way you can. Yeah, and what I started saying was, don't let things ruffle your feathers, but also it goes deeper, is don't let things change your belief system in one instant. Just make sure that you are aware of reactionary emotions, and that your thoughts are very creative. So again, in that instant of emotion, if you do, let's say it is anger or something, big that comes up really, that rises quickly kind of thing, just make sure that you're aware of it, and that those kinds of emotions and thoughts put together are creative, and you want to make sure you're creating a higher vibrational reality than allowing that low vibration reality to come out, so to speak, if that makes sense. Keep making connections though. Sorry, I know I'm talking a lot about that down there. So let's go to the Death card, and this is the Fire card. And I'm trying to see what's going on here. And for the lesson, we're looking at boundaries, which is really interesting given what we're going over here. So, did I do the time period? Yeah, we did the time period. It's not going to be super specific, but it is before colonization. We could definitely say that. It does feel really old. And then the Death card, I'm still trying to see, because I know the death is taking place in the community. And when it's a Fire card, it can be like, oh, you're burned at the stake, or something catches fire in your sleep, or something like that. But I feel like what we're looking at, I feel like it's kind of like an attachment to this. It's like attached to this. Okay, so what happens is, it feels like you're the one. It feels like you're affected too. I'm just trying to figure out how you're affected and what's going on, because it's showing me that you're a little bit elevated higher up looking at what's going on. And even though there's a flood, I don't know what it could possibly do with a fire. So I'm trying to see, because it feels like there are things on fire. And sometimes if I don't get the exact thing for the death, it means it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for you, at least. It's nothing you have to worry about, or not that you have to worry about anything, but it's something you don't have to, I guess, know about, because it's not affecting you. But I would be very curious to know, because it feels like they're showing me flood going through, and then higher elevation is a fire, but I don't even think it's a fire caused by anything. It feels like it honestly looks like a torch that's retaining the flame while the flood is going through, and it feels like it's almost on a pyramid of some kind. So if that speaks to you in any way, I'm just going to tell you that's all I'm seeing. So if the imagery evokes anything for you or triggers anything, then that's for you to know. But right now it's a flood going through a large community. There's a pyramid, like the South America, like the stacked pyramids we see, and there is a torch on the pyramid that is not bothered by the flood. So that could be just symbolism for you in some way. So connect with that however you can. I'm trying to, yeah, that's all I'm getting. And then here for the lesson, the boundaries card. This is coming through, it feels like for you currently in your life. It's more about making sure that you aren't putting boundaries up against your own self, like putting them up for yourself, like doubting things, or it's okay to be skeptical, but make sure your skepticism doesn't turn into cynicism. Like make sure that if it's good to be skeptical, because you do your research about things and you make sure it's acceptable. It's not just purely just thought up for without any reason or foundation behind it, right? So that's okay, but allow the skepticism to fade away as soon as you do get whatever evidence you need. And the evidence can be emotional purely. It could be your own intuition telling you, yes, this is true, this is right, that kind of thing. So make sure you're not putting up walls and boundaries too high for yourself, because those can act as obstacles for your own growth, even though it is again, be smart, be safe, take things with a grain of salt. But if something resonates with you, allow it to resonate with you, allow your gut to feel that, allow yourself to feel more, and allow yourself to let go of, again, any boundaries that you do put up for yourself. Maybe it's even just telling you to do it even slightly quicker than you already do. But it just feels like these boundaries do have to do with you. But also, if there are other people that there's something about other people, if you're keeping them out from knowing what you are interested in, then those are not the right people for you. Even if they're family, don't feel like, if you're into something and your family isn't into something, if that makes sense, don't feel like you have to share yourself with them, if it's going to make you feel bad or not. You know what I mean? Basically, it's saying make sure that boundaries that you put up with people are more or less in check, or are up there for not just like a good reason, but like make sure they're there for you as well. So again, what's coming up is balance. So it's a weird thing where you have to balance boundaries you put up for yourself versus boundaries you put up with other people, but for you. So make sure the boundaries you have with other people are serving you, and make sure the boundaries that you have up with yourself are serving you as well and not taking away from the experience, if that makes sense. So that's an interesting one, never had before. Overall, there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections and keep making connections as they come through, because you might get some thoughts that pop through in the next couple of days where there's a connection made you weren't able to make before. So keep in mind that is your higher self talking to you. And yeah, thanks for letting me read you.